Hello and welcome to another garden design show. In this episode I'm going to give you a quick update on how my garden is doing with the planting that went in a couple of months ago and also the allotment. How did it fare with me just planting everything and leaving it all for 2 months? If you're frustrated your garden doesn't look as beautiful as it could, even though you've purchased lots of lovely plants, then help is at hand. Plants are not enough. You have to have a good design layout. And when you combine design with the beauty of plants, that's when the magic really happens. It's our mission here at Successful Garden Design to show you how to do it, and it's much easier than you may think. I'm Rachel Matthews and I've been a professional international garden designer for over 30 years, and I teach garden design online. Also, we've got some wonderful news from one of our Successful Garden Design students, Sam. Those of you that have been following the blog for a long time will recognise her garden. Here's what she started out with before she did the Great Garden Formula course, and then she completely transformed it into an absolutely stunning garden. So then after she'd done her own garden, she really got the bit between her teeth to do this professionally. So she then launched a professional career after doing more training and working at Aurelia, which is a fabulous landscaping company, and has been successfully designing gardens ever since. So what could possibly top that? Well, being chosen to design a garden at the very prestigious Chelsea Flower Show in London. Now, this is where the creme de la creme of garden designers get together and show off their talents. And Sam created a wonderful little garden, which you can see here. And if you go onto the Chiltern Garden Design Facebook page, you can see many more photos. And that was from her original plan, beautifully done, lovely attention to detail. All in all, a very stunning small space, very restful, with some beautiful little features. I love this sculpture, and the delicateness of this planting gives a very magical feel to it all. Absolutely stunning. There's Sam herself with the BBC's Carol Klein. There was an extra challenge to designing this garden, and that was to have it have a reservoir system that would keep plants alive during the summer months, if we ever get one in England, for 2 to 4 weeks. So the planters all have a reservoir in, and it's very cleverly designed so that it gives the plants enough water without flooding them. So there's the capillary action within the base of these planters. So even though it hasn't actually stopped raining in England since last year, no doubt as soon as we get a tiny amount of sunshine, there will be a hosepipe ban. So a very useful and practical design. So congratulations to Sam. So much hard work goes into the Chelsea Flower Show. It's unbelievable. So she's done fabulously well. And I really love the simplicity and calmness of her garden. And the shade of blue in these planters is just absolutely wonderful. And no doubt being at Chelsea will enhance her already fabulous career, and she will go on to even greater things. We look forward to seeing more from you. Now, as a contrast to the endless perfection and huge budgets of the Chelsea Flower Show gardens, to an average back garden in the UK that I inherited when I moved house. And because I don't intend to stay here for long, the garden needed to be done on a tight budget. So you could say it's the polar opposite of a Chelsea garden. And I was quite good at when I first moved in. I got to work on the garden really quickly and transformed it. And then I got a bit busy and never got round to doing the planting plan for 2 years, would you believe? I know, say nothing. I've had it in the ear from my mother enough. Anyway, I finally got inspired to do a Pete Aldorf style of garden and did a quick scribble of the ideas of the plants that I wanted to put in. And then I set about the planting. A couple of days before, we had to go to Spain to sort the house out. Arrived the majority of the plants. So as it's a lovely sunny day, I'm going to get planting. So always set out as many plants as you can before you start planting rather than doing them one at a time. That way you can see everything fits and has got room. So some of these that are really close together are the alliums, and they're growing up through other things. So you can see the roots are just beginning to form on them, which means the bulb will be up soon. So it's going to look very bald for quite some time, but hopefully by this time next year it'll all start really coming together. But even at the end of this year, there should be enough growth on everything that I'll have a nicer garden to look at than I did last year, that's for sure. So even though there's very little to see of this allium, there's just a tiny shoot coming up. Look how busy it has been in that pot. So wow. So anyway, I'm going to gently tease these roots out so it can really get away when I plant it. Even though it's been raining continuously forever and the ground is very wet, still not advisable to plant like this where you can see it's really dry. So anything like that, I'm just going to bob down into the watering can. But as soon as it stopped bubbling, then I know that it's sufficiently soaked. Oh, there we go. There you can see it now. Although I'm not going to completely saturate it because, as I say, the ground is quite wet, but it's always good practice to not put in really dry plants. So here's how it looked at the end of March, just after planting, with a very dog chewed up lawn and a lot of manure. So here's how it looked when I came back 2 months later. Okay, the grass had recovered somewhat. It was about a foot tall, but I trimmed it, and considering it hasn't had a mad dog on it for 2 months, it's recovered quite well. The planting, well, the cabbages have gone crazy, and so had the potatoes. The rocket that was in the middle layer, I had to cut that back because that had gone everywhere. But the planting, well, the allium certainly weren't quite as I was expecting. I had hoped they'd formed a flower, but anyway, and the irises have been absolutely stripped with the slugs, but all in all, it's not doing too badly. A lot of aphid on my fruit trees, but yeah, it's coming along. Certainly a nice combination with the foxgloves and the lavenders. But yeah, that's the only one allium out of everything I'd planted and no iris flowers. So hey ho, wasn't looking quite as good as I hoped it would, but at least everything's still alive, except the pink mullygrass. Now that looked quite dead when I put it in, and no signs of life whatsoever. So they will have to go back to the wholesalers. So here's how the allotment looked at the end of March. As you can see, it's been absolutely chucking it down. Everything's bedraggled, but I'd got a load of manure on. I'd covered up some of the beds just to keep the weeds down. There's lots of manure. The JDAM had the 3 treatments of the main preparation that you make with potatoes, so that should get everything moving. And although I'm not eating much garlic these days, I'd got some left over from the year before that I'd grown that were quite small bulbs that had started to shoot. So as some of the preparations for the Jadam pesticides have garlic, I thought I might as well plant them along the sides, and then I've got additional garlic to put in those preparations this year. So waste not, want not. So after 2 months away, this is the state of the allotment. I must say, I'm pretty shocked by the potatoes. So, as always, we're doing the experiment with just manure on this border, JDAM preparations on that one, and I'm still doing the electroculture despite much ridicule from other YouTubers. Because I've got it in situ, might as well test it. So, it looks... The last time I saw potatoes that looked like this was when I did an experiment to see if I could grow one indoors with artificial lighting, and it looked very, very stretched. Now, bearing in mind, there is no shadow in this allotment particularly. Why are all the potatoes looking so stretched? Have you not had any daylight at all, sunlight at all, in the last 2 months? So, very odd. Unless it's something to do with the manure I put down, but anyway. So JDAM, as always, is looking the best to me. The electroculture looks pretty good, although some here didn't fare well. And then the border down the bottom, potatoes just seem to love it here. And I didn't even plant any, I don't think. I think this is all the leftovers from last year popping back up again. So fantastic crop there. It's just the new stuff that's a bit concerning, but at least I'll have some potatoes, even though not as many as I'd hoped. So if I'm struggling this much, it makes you wonder how on earth the farmers are doing. So yes, things haven't grown quite as much as I'd have liked, but at least everything more or less was still alive, which is good, and the potatoes, albeit looking rather stretched, are coming along. So all things considered, it's done okay, but I do hope we get some sunshine at some point and the garden can really start to take off. But the growing season so far is still a concern, especially with everything that's happening in the farming world right now. Now, many of you may already be aware of the campaign No Farmers, No Food. So I just want to play you a quick clip from a talk that farmer Mark Byford gave not so long ago, because it really brings home just how serious the situation is with our food supply right now.
So potatoes wholesale are about £15 a bag. During the pandemic, they were £5 a bag. And I could ring farmers and I could access 200, 300, 400 tonne in a day. Now, the food just isn't there in the system. So that's why this is going to be very different played out this time round. And I cannot emphasise enough to people, as much as we'll talk about the farming side later, on my thoughts of where the food side is at this point. If you have not started stocking up yet, you want to do so, and you want to do so quickly. The other side is we are now coming into spring, and at some point you've had that big bright thing has shown itself twice this week now. The ground might dry out enough to get some seeds in. Have you got a garden? Have you got some beds you can grow your own stuff? You're never going to grow enough. End of. But think about this. Is there anyone in here who has 3 meals a day? Yeah? Fair show of hands. 3 meals a day, yeah? Fair? 365 days in a year. So it's 1,000 plates, you can say, of food for each person in your house. And when I say to people, have you got food supply stored up for how long? And you work it out platefuls, and then you go, well, for us in our house is 3, that's 3,000 plates. That's a lot of food if you're trying to get it all together now, right? So where does that end up? Because at the end of the day, we're in a position now where food prices have gone up exponentially. We all know that in the last couple of years, food prices have gone through the roof. Why? And I just want to show you something. How much was the cauliflower?
75.
Right, £1.75. Do you know how much the farmer was paid for that? So that's what you as a customer walking in the door, you're going to Sainsbury's, that's going to cost you £1.75. Do you know how much the farmer got paid for that? Now, there's 2 systems. I don't know for those who know who deal with supermarkets. There's 2 systems. Some where the farmer only does bed and breakfast for the crop. The crop belongs to Tesco's or Sainsbury's, whoever it might be, and they pay them like a penny a cauliflower to grow it. Everyone what leaves the farm. Or they buy that off of them at 28 pence. Now, you do the maths. You know what you're paying as a consumer, and the farmers are getting completely screwed the other end. Who's earning all the money? And here's the big kicker. We all support them. Litre of milk, £1.20. This is at Sainsbury's today, on the way down. £1.20. How much do you reckon the farmer gets? Cost of production of that is 42p. Right? That's what the farmers reckon it costs to produce it. Now, farmer gets 32p for taking it off the farm. So they lose 10 pence a litre, every litre what goes in the tanker that goes up the drive to go to a supermarket, they're losing money. Then anyone will go, well, why the hell did they sign the contract? The problem is, when they signed that contract 2-3 years ago, cost of running the farm was down here. During the pandemic, fair to say, red diesel was what, 20 pence a litre then? Now it's going up 90 pence a pound a litre some places. So cost of running the farm has gone through the frickin' roof. Cost of electric to run whether that's heating the sheds or for the animals, or whether that's running the corn dryers, whatever any farmer's got to do, there is always this challenge that the costs have got exponential. Like I said earlier, feed prices. When I took my farm on at Thurston, the grain for the chickens then was £4, I think then £4.90 a bag, just shy of a fiver. Now, that's like £12.90 a bag. Depending on what ones you buy, obviously. But that's how much it's gone up. So the cost of running the farm has just got absolutely out of control. In the background of that as well, you've also got the other side that a lot of the farmers are being encouraged to not farm. And we'll cover this in the second half. One of the things of the 3 things we're going to cover in the second half is legislation. And the legislation now that farmers go through because of DEFRA and the Environment Agency is mind-blowing. Just mind-blowing. Legislation that wasn't there, the farming side's got really bad. So legislation is a big issue. So as a result of the legislation increase, farmers have got to the point they don't want to farm. Because it's not about farming anymore, it's about this massive amount of paperwork they've got to deal with.
And I hope that you'll be inspired to grow vegetables for yourself, because with the way everything's going for the farmers, we could end up with very high priced food and lots of shortages. So it really is worth giving it a go this year, even if it's just a few potatoes in pots. Every little bit helps. So even though I have the allotment, I've also made sure that I utilise every bit of space. Now I've got potatoes under the pansies there, and just built because it's pretty ugly looking at these black plastic pots, so I started to build out of reclaimed wood a planter around it to disguise them. And then it's just a matter of topping it all off with some straw to disguise it, and then hey presto, potatoes. And the reclaimed timber cost me all of £15. So really quick and easy method of extending your vegetables. I'm just spraying them with a homemade fertiliser, because you can see the leaves are a little bit yellowy. They need to be darker green. So I got pretty good crops out of those and hope to do so again this year. So until next time, take care. Bye bye.